Dear friends, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another one of the decentralized webinars. My name is Soulla Louca, and I'm a professor and one of the directors at the University of Nicosia Institute for the Future. Before we begin, I would like to mention to everybody that this session will be recorded and will be uploaded on YouTube. This webinar will be a little bit different than the other ones that we have had so far, in the sense that we will be introducing to you one of our projects. The project is called EUNOMIA and is funded by the European Union's Age 2020 Research and Innovation Program. The main objective of the project is the development and implementation of a social platform in which enables users to identify the source of information, assess the provenance of online information, and protect their network from misinformation. The project has been running for the past 20 months, and we're currently in the process, in the second phase, in which we are doing the testing of the platform. We would like to present to you the platform EUNOMIA and invite you afterwards to join a dedicated instance in which we have created for all of you blockchain enthusiasts to tap on the power of this technology and ask your help also for improvements. Please allow me now to introduce to you Dr. Ryan Hartfield, Research Fellow in the Internet of Things and Security Group at the University of Greenwich, who will present to us the EUNOMIA platform and its early functionalities, what we have implemented so far. So any help afterwards will be great. Will be very helpful for us. Within this project, Ryan is currently actually the work package coordinator for the technology tools development alongside with other consortium partners, including the University of Nicosia. And so now Ryan will be presenting to us the platform. Ryan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Soulla, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your either vacation, your working day, or just your general time to come and listen to us and have a look at this dedicated instance of EUNOMIA for the decentralized community. As Soulla mentioned, I'm one of the researchers working on the technology tools in the EUNOMIA project. And I guess that the main point of this webinar is to give you a real feel and overview of the EUNOMIA's instance for the decentralized community, which, as you probably have noticed, is effectively powered by the open source decentralized social media platform Mastodon. So what you're going to see when we log in and I start driving through the platform is a lot of essentially, majority Mastodon functionality with some of EUNOMIA's tools and technologies and functionality, enriching that experience for you as a community. To see how you benefit from them, but also to get your feedback. One of the key things for us is, we want to hear your thoughts, your ideas, see what works well for you and see whether or not we've added as tools, help improve your experience of using a decentralized social media platform, ultimately for your community, to talk about blockchain, to talk about distributed ledger technologies and share information in a community that is designed for you. So, the aim of this presentation, I want it pretty interactive. I know Soulla said afterwards, but feel free right now, if you like, to log in and join the instance now and start posting messages, playing around and getting familiar with the platform itself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through the login process or just show you very quickly. And then we'll start talking through the functionality, pointing out key areas, and we'll take questions as well, so that maybe if I skip over some of the functionality that you'd like to see a bit more, we can dig into a bit of that. And also explain, what we've got there currently, and also in terms of what's going to be coming up in the near future. So currently what you'll see shared on your screen is the login page, which is effectively default and standard for any Mastodon instance. By the way, the centralized logo is absolutely awesome. Such a quality logo designer who created it, but it's really cool. And a standard login procedure. So when you sign up, you'll be giving over your email address and you're logging in, you'll receive an email confirmation, much like any standard sort of social media platform. And then once you log in, you'll be asked to fill out the agreed to the terms and conditions of the platform. So do read through this because it tells you how information is stored in the Mastodon EUNOMIA instance for Decentralized Community, and a bit of information about the project as well that you might be interested in. Once you log in, you will be presented with your home screen. It's kind of like the default home screen you'll see on Twitter, and much of the things you're going to see inside the user interface on the EUNOMIA Mastodon instance is effectively Twitter-like. So for those of you that use Twitter, you'll be very familiar with the functionality, the buttons, share, reply, favorite. They might be called slightly different things, but are generally a very similar user experience. Now, inside the instance, you'll see this default feed, as well as these two links here called local and federated. So at the moment, the decentralized instance for of EUNOMIA is not currently connected to the peer-to-peer database, and it's not currently connected to the blockchain network, which will be introduced in the following weeks. So what you'll find at the moment is a standalone instance that has some EUNOMIA functionality, but there will be functionality that we're, I guess, releasing over the next couple of weeks that we want to slowly introduce to you as a community to just use naturally within the platform as part of just sharing information and using the platform for decentralized communities communication and sharing of news. But once we do release it, we'll make announcements and we'll be looking for feedback directly from you. So with that in mind, when you log in, you'll be presented this screen, and by clicking on local, you effectively get a feed of your local instance's messages. So anyone who has signed up to your local instance, in this case, a centralized instance, you'll get a list and timeline of all the messages that have been posted, very Twitter-like in nature. And once you do have the federated network, i.e. connected to the peer-to-peer network of other instances for the decentralized community, and the blockchain connected, then the federated timeline is effectively a mixture of those particular posts. At this moment in time, it's just a single feed, of course, because it's a single instance. So inside the EUNOMIA Mastodon instance, you'll just see that you can create posts like Twitter, and you'll see generally the standard user interface you'd expect. However, there are the EUNOMIA, let's say, extensions to this Mastodon instance that give you more functionality that you can use to see if it's helped you for identifying whether or not you want to, let's say, trust or mistrust information that you think perhaps isn't as correct as it could be or as accurate as it could be. And these are articulated in the GUI in the form of a tick or an X. So much like you would usually like a post, or you would respond to a post about how you felt about it, if, for example, you didn't believe what I was saying here, that I'd found a startup to do with blockchain, which I did, I just can't find the link for it, then you would respond to that. So you can't vote on your own posts, of course, but if you wanted to say, trust this post, then you could trust it and click on a link there. And I'll give you an example now. Sorry, Soulla, I'm picking on you. Good morning, EUNOMIANs. Or in fact, no, let's go down to Pascal. If I trusted that I thought decentralization was the future of all levels, it's a fairly innocuous post, but I can click on trust there. And now I've registered that I've trusted this particular post. And when you've trusted or mistrust the post, then you'll be highlighted so you've got a visual indication. Now, this is just an extra functionality. It's not the purpose of the instance. The purpose of the instance itself is to just use for your community for the purpose that you want to discuss blockchain and distributed ledger. But these are the extra functionalities that we're introducing that can help you just identify rumors or perhaps information that isn't quite right, and therefore add your trust or mistrust to it. You'll also notice alongside whether replying to or favoriting a post that you have this eye icon. And effectively what this does is just provide some richer information about the post, but also the author of the post. So at this point in time, we just have some default profile information, not very useful. So the account age, the ratio of followers to following, amount of posts that have been made. But what you can expect to see in the coming weeks and months even is some more information in there. So perhaps some more detailed information about the post, some analysis on the post, or some analysis on the author. As well as that, what you can also expect to see is some really cool functionality that we're going to introduce in a couple of weeks, which allows you to identify let's say, the earliest sources of the similar information and the most recent sources. So let's say, for example, someone had posted this information, what we're seeing on the screen now from Soulla, let's say 2 months before. Actually, what that function is there to do is to say, well, let's look at that and see if it's the most recent version of information. Has this information changed over time? And therefore, what does that mean? Do I trust this information that Soulla's posted, or is it useful to me? And if it isn't or isn't, I can look at that back in time without having to manually go and do that yourself. So the idea of this extra functionality is really to just help you. And if you don't find it useful, we want to know. And if you do find it useful and you've got ideas about how you might improve it, absolutely want to hear from you. So if I draw your attention down to here, we have some information about that is in development, but we've got these little tools, the hashtag mechanisms, so that when you're using the platform, if you see a bug, maybe the platform's slow, maybe the buttons don't work, something doesn't work or isn't as useful as you thought it'd be, please post a message with EUNOMIA, hashtag EUNOMIA bug. But if you've got ideas, like we want to hear from the community, you guys, the point of this isn't a test. This is your platform now, to use as you will for the community. But at the same time, we'll benefit massively in the project from getting your ideas. What do you find useful? Okay, perhaps you find the trust and mistrust toolkit useful, but there's some type of information you'd like to see here that would help you just assess information more, apply some information hygiene practices that you will find useful for when you take some information off the platform and maybe use it in a seminar, use it when you have a conversation with some of your colleagues, and ultimately take some information from your colleagues and put it into the platform to share with the community. Also, you'll also find that if you want to review terms of services, etc., you can link that here. So I'll give you a quick example of the platform in practice. We are live in the decentralized webinar. Great to show off early platform functionality. And much like you expect with Mastodon, very easy to use. We can post that information, and that will then should be at the top of our post. Sorry, top of our feed. And then Michael's 3, 2, 1, go. So the idea is that the functionality should be very familiar to you. Of course, you can't use the vote and mistrust and don't trust functionality on your own post, because that would be self-biased. But nevertheless, it's there for you to use the tool. And like you'd expect to see on Twitter as well, you can put polls in. So we're really interested to see the kind of polls that you've got. We had a question earlier today, I think it was from Penelope, in here asking about, if I find the post for you, let's type in Penelope to see if we can search her. And much like you'd expect, again, I know I use Twitter as an example, we can see what posts certain people have made, any questions that they have, or posts and replies. So you can create threads in here, you can attach media, links, videos. I think there was a question about, how can I understand how blockchain works? So one of the cool things you can do is, let's say, add a poll, add some questions in there, get some responses from the community. And that's really cool, because if there's some trending information about blockchain or distributed ledger technology, then a really nice way of doing that is like host a poll, put some questions in there and see responses. Equally, if someone posted some information on the platform that wasn't sure of, that was really breaking, but people are voting, mistrusting it, so clicking on the X against it, like I have on this here, that might be useful for you as a piece of information. Say, well, if a lot of people don't trust this information, do I trust it? Should I use it? Should I go and tell my friend about it before I share it? And that's the kind of extra functionality that we want to give the community to see if it's useful for you. But primarily, if I'm honest, the platform's there to be used as a community chapter capability for you to share information and to feedback to us as a project about what you find useful as we start to release the functionality. And like I said, what's really cool about this is that the decentralized chapter are using a platform that is ultimately underpinned by blockchain and by decentralized technology. So when that decentralized technology is introduced, for this instance, it will be using IPFS for a peer-to-peer database and Hyperledger technology for, let's say, for the integrity of the database. So it'd be there for measuring the integrity of the database, and that's what it'll be recording. But obviously, questions are encouraged, and information will be disseminated to the community about the new functionality that's introduced, what it does, and whether it's found useful, and getting ideas back for improving it as we go along. So I think, generally speaking, please explore the platform, please use it now, get stuck into it, tell us what you think, tell us what you think works, doesn't work, and if there's anything about the user interface that, isn't, I guess, as intuitive as you thought it would be, then we'd love to hear that. Also, it has, it's my understanding, a light color mode. So if you don't like the dark background, you can change that to a light color mode. It's just a theme that's provided by Mastodon. But we're really looking forward to you guys using the platform, and we really want you to see it as something that's going to help you communicate better as a community. I think that's what I've got for now. In fact, like I said, there's some really early functionality there with the trust and mistrust buttons in terms of the information that you're seeing in the post. And there's the eye indicator where there's some default profile information. Like I said, we'll put some more functionality on there in the coming weeks, and that really cool technology that will be able to look at the source of information or earlier sources of similar information, and the most recent that will be coming in a couple of weeks as well, and we can't wait for you to see it. That's me, Soulla. So if we want to take any questions, we can kind of go back into the platform if they want to look at some extra functionality, but that's about it for the time being, and I guess the aim is for people to just get stuck in and start using it.
I think I am muted. All right. Ryan, can you enable also your camera? We cannot see you.
I was having a bad hair day, but let me turn it on for you. 1 second.
Sure. Okay, here. Now we can see you.
I didn't gel my hair for this.
All right. We have a question. How do we fight trolls and bots?
Yeah, I can help that. So I guess one of the ideas is to empower the community with these tools to actually try and register when you've identified what you think is a troll, or whether or not you think a bot is just sharing information that may be false on purpose. The idea is to put the control in the user's hands. We don't want to have a tool in EUNOMIA or in your community that tells you what's right and wrong. Ultimately, the community wants to look after themselves. That's really important, right? It's really key for the community to maintain the integrity of the information you share, how you consume it, and also uphold what you want to get out of the community, which is good information and knowledge sharing and learning. So in that case, the idea is that if that kind of behavior occurs, please leverage those tools, right? And use the mistrust and trust tool to say that you think this is untrustworthy or not. At the moment, there isn't like a comment box, but it's something we might introduce. So, or like a category box to say, well, okay, you said you didn't trust this information. You think it's a troll just ruining a really great thread that was having some really great impact. I don't trust it, but why don't you trust it? And then so when we introduce that kind of functionality, we haven't decided yet, but if you want it, you say you want it, then that's something we can look at. Then you would register that, and then you would say, okay, well, if I'm looking at a post and I see it has 100 mistrusts, or maybe 1,000 mistrusts, and people are saying this is a bot, this is a bot, this is a bot, that can be some really powerful information in terms of, okay, it probably might be a bot who's sharing the information, but it's the community that's reinforcing that. The community is giving you the capability to do that. And equally with the trust part is, if a piece of information is highly trusted, then you take that in your own. Don't take them as face value. The idea is that you use that information to help you in your decision making. It's not there to tell you what to do. It's there to help you and to say, well, maybe I should slow down, and before I post this or share it, have a deeper think about whether I think it's trustworthy or not. And these are just tools to support you at this point. And so it's a user community functionality to help you solve trolls and bots, not an automated one. And so as we start to release that functionality I mentioned about seeing the earliest sources of information, the most recent, again, extra tools to help you say, well, perhaps the information has changed. Maybe a bot has twisted information. You see this on Facebook and Twitter all the time. They've twisted information and it's now negative when originally it was positive, or vice versa. And that's the kind of extra tools we want to help you to fight against these particular bad actors or people that ruin the experience.
Okay. There is another interesting question from Marcel. He says, okay, it's clear how this is being done, but one approves or trusts one another. What happens basically in the case that one approves that and it trusts a certain post and the other one says it doesn't approve it?
Yeah, so I think, this is what I said before, which is ultimately and someone put a really good question. Sometimes Twitter's a shout out game. Whoever shouts the loudest. So if you can mobilize a force of people to just say, well, we are this group of people, we just want to make sure this post gets drowned out. I can do 100 trust and 0 mistrust. You get the game. It's like it's the same as liking and misliking, right? The idea here is that that this is the start, right? We can improve the functionality. So if you have, if you look at like Amazon reviews, ultimately, do you look at the 5,000 5-stars that have almost no detail, or the 1 star that has more detail? We're trying to find that balance. So there's type of context you can apply to a vote. Then you can say, well, okay, I don't trust this because of this reason. And ultimately, that can give you a richer experience. But we need that kind of feedback from the community. The project needs that feedback to understand, well, what do you find most useful? Equally, the other tools, the trust and mistrust are about saying, well, also, am I going to share this information? Do I say I don't trust it and it's reinforcing for me, and therefore I don't share it because I don't want to propagate bad or poor or ill-defined information, even if it wasn't malicious? Maybe it was just misinformation because a friend heard about it and shared it. The other tools, which is how you find similar sources of information or earlier sources, is going to help you make that decision. So don't look at the like equivalent as saying, well, if it's got 1,000 likes, I'm going to trust it. It's there to give you a nudge as well. That nudge to say, maybe I'll need to look a bit more into this information before I do trust it, as opposed to before I just go and share it because it's popular. Because that's what virality is that if it's very popular, you end up just sharing information that maybe isn't entirely true or is ill-informed. And then so the idea is that it's not any single, let's say, indicator of trust. It's what's your preference as well, what guides you. But ultimately, these are, like I said before, these are hopefully tools that can be useful to the community to use the platform for what you want, which is someone asked a question, which public or people do we aim this at? Well, actually, this instance is for the decentralized community, for you to enjoy as a platform for talking about blockchain, sharing information about ledger technology and learning from it and enjoying it as a community. But ultimately, it can be used for other communities as well. And so the idea is to say, well, does this functionality benefit you in any way? We hope it does. Does it make you more confident when you share information and you consume information?
Thank you, Ryan. There is another interesting question that there are quite a few questions. I'm just going to pick up and try to answer all of them. Otherwise, if we don't have enough time, then we can just follow up with them in emails. Another interesting question that I see here is about the identity access. Is the identity access with blockchain, and how to check with biased propaganda material? Do we have an ML embedded for that?
So is the identity access with blockchain? So the blockchain, that at the moment, the use of the blockchain is to verify the integrity of data, at least for the EUNOMIA instance of blockchain, the hyperledger technologies, to verify the integrity of data that's on the peer-to-peer database. So you know that the last good state was this, so you should use as a reference. We don't use the blockchain for identity access. Although the question is, how is identity access made to the blockchain? We'd have to, the blockchain technologists in UNIT could probably answer that in, let's say, more directly. Afterwards, we can take those questions and ask them directly, because I don't actually know that part. With respect to the biased propaganda material, like I said before, we're taking a really balanced user-first approach with this. What that basically means is that we have a number of, let's say, machine learning technologies that can say, well, this information looks like it's a negative sentiment, or the text, right? This series of text looks like it's negative in its sentiment or positive. That doesn't mean, of course, that that's a bad thing. If you're saying that this post is very negative towards this particular piece of information, that doesn't mean it's untrustworthy. But we aim to use this in a very objective way, so that if you're looking at a really big thread, you can see, for example, the earliest source of information were, let's say, negative, and the most recent were positive. And so you can see how information's changed. And maybe that matters to you because the early information was negative and the most recent is positive. But does that change the perspective of the information? So we have got a number of tools that we're going to release periodically throughout for the environment, for the community, and we need to get your feedback from them, because none of them are to tell you, let me say, none of those machine learning tools will tell you what's right and wrong. We don't want that for the community, because you don't want to be told by a computer whether you should trust something or not. You just want its output to help you in your decision-making process, to say, well, its sentiment is this, or the stance of other people to this information is this way, generally speaking. So maybe that, yes, okay, that feels like then I don't trust this, or I do trust this. It's about they're more like helping hand companions, let's say, rather than binary classifiers to tell you that something is or isn't trustworthy, because that's not what the tools are for. I hope that answers the question, that there will be some machine learning tools, but they're more as supporting to give you context about information rather than to tell you it's trustworthy or not.
Thank you, Ryan. Another question that we have here, and it's very interesting. How much is EUNOMIA censorship resistant?
I saw that question very much quickly.
Yep.
I'm not sure I understand it in sense censorship. It doesn't EUNOMIA doesn't get involved in the censorship at all. In fact, you can consider it like just an extra set of functionality and a toolkits that live on top of Mastodon, actually. So EUNOMIA doesn't censor anything. It doesn't get involved in stopping information being shared. So, for example, we looked at a post that had 1,000 trusts and let's say 500,000 mistrusts. That won't stop the information being on Mastodon. It's just that EUNOMIA gives you the capability to register these trusts. What that means is that as you as a user, if you see that situation where you've got all these toolkits that tell you maybe the sentiment is negative and it's got loads of mistrust and you could see the sources of information, you as a user say, maybe I'm not going to share that information. Maybe I'm going to stop myself from sharing it because perhaps it isn't very trustworthy. What happens then is that actually the user community stop the propagation of false information, not the system. But let's be categorically clear, EUNOMIA doesn't do any type of censorship whatsoever. It doesn't stop information being shared. It just gives you some tools to better assess information effectively.
Thank you. Another question, if we are targeting specific groups.
No, there's no targets for the groups. I mean, like for this instance, it's for the decentralized community. So we want to start with to share an instance with some of the toolkits and functionality and the extra functionality is going to be released over time with a community we knew that had a really great interest. We didn't want to start with something where people will just talk about, be it Twitter. We want a strong community interest where you're doing things that you love, talking about things that you really care about, and then testing the tools out. Say, well, are they helping you? Do you find them useful at all? So, but ultimately, the toolkit, EUNOMIA toolkit that's currently powered by Mastodon, social media platform, can be used by anyone. It's not for any particular group. It's for the general public to benefit from for the greater good. But for the time being, this instance is just for the decentralized community because we think you are a great bunch of people to give some feedback to us and use it to help you as a great platform in benefiting the community.
And we know that they all appreciate this kind of technology.
I mean, it helps that the fact that the platform is ultimately going to be underpinned by decentralized technology. So in itself, hopefully that should be an interesting thing. And we want to hear feedback about people's understanding of what we're using and why, and whether or not it's something they think is great or not. We want to hear both sides of the story there.
Another question regarding a mobile application.
I saw that, in fact. So you can get, and someone also replied very helpfully, so thank you, that you can access it on Android or iPhone already. So if you have a browser right on your phone, it's an Electron app, in fact. If you look at Mastodon, and it can be used on anything. So you can access it by your browser. But there will be, my understanding, is a more dedicated app, more natural app. So at the moment you can access it via your web browser, but there will be a mobile app, is my understanding. When that's going to be released, I don't know. I can't give you a date, but that should be, available at some point, I think.
I do not see any other questions here on the chat. Well, then anything else that we would like to mention at this point, Ryan?
I don't think so. You know, it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. So we went through the platform very quickly, but like I said, there's only very rudimentary functionality at the moment from a EUNOMIA point of view. The rest is just, I guess, the Mastodon platform. So, like I said, we're going to announce slow releases of different functionality so that we can get people's feedback from the community to say, we found this cool, or this isn't very good, I don't know what it's used for. And then also, just use the platform, enjoy it as a community. There's the hashtag EUNOMIA bug, hashtag EUNOMIA idea, to just feedback in and see if there's anything we need to fix or anything we can improve, and ultimately get a community that, you know, has a really strong interest in a great technological area, ultimately linked to the project, which it is, to be part of the journey, really. And you know, this is not like just a test or pilot. We want you to have this community going forward for as long as you want, and as long as we find it useful. And we're going to really benefit, and hopefully you're really going to enjoy using it and ultimately being part of the kind of suggesting ideas and helping us improve technology.
Great. Well, I will just reiterate what Ryan has said. We do need your feedback on how we can improve further this platform. And I would like to just thank all of you for being here with us. Please do log in, post, trust, mistrust information, test it, and provide us with any feedback you would like. So thank you all. Before we finish and close down, I would just like to say special thanks to one of my professors, actually, that I had like more than 30 years ago while I was doing my PhD in the United States at IIT, Professor Gulgarni. Thank you for being here with us. It's very touching. Wow. Yeah, he's in India, actually. So thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.